Hi everyone and welcome to today's lesson. So today's lesson fits into our topic of human psychological development. And today we'll be looking at a developmental psychologist, Erikson. Now he developed a theory surrounding our development, which spanned from infancy and up until death. So Erikson looked at our development through our social environment and our experiences, as he believed that had a huge impact on the way that we developed throughout our life. And he named his theory the psychosocial development theory. So let's take a bit of a look at what this theory comprised of. So Erikson's theory comprises of 8 stages of development, and they span from infancy up until death. So according to his theory, each individual needs to pass through each of these 8 developmental stages, and he called them the psychosexual stages. Now we all needed to move through each of the 8 stages in the right order. Now, each stage was characterised by a psychological crisis that we needed to overcome, and this crisis must be resolved before moving to the next stage. Now, depending on how we overcame the crisis at this particular stage, there could be a positive outcome or a negative outcome at that stage. I will discuss this a little bit further throughout this PowerPoint. So let's have a bit of a closer look at each of the 8 stages and the crises that we needed to overcome within the 8 stages. So here what I have is the stage, the name that Erikson named the stage, and then in red I have the crisis that we needed to overcome within that stage to then move to the next one. So stage 1 he named infancy, and the crisis that we had to go through was trust versus mistrust. Stage 2 he named toddler, and the crisis that we needed to go through was autonomy versus doubt. Stage 3 was named early childhood, and the crisis that we needed to go through was initiative versus guilt. Stage 4 was elementary and middle school years, and the crisis that we needed to work through was competence versus inferiority. Stage 5 was adolescence, and the crisis that we needed to resolve was identity versus role confusion. Stage 6 was young adulthood, and the crisis that we needed to resolve was intimacy versus isolation. Stage 7 was middle adulthood, and the crisis that we needed to go through was generativity versus stagnation. And stage 8 was late adulthood, and the crisis that we needed to resolve was integrity versus despair. So I'm not going to go through and talk about each of the crises really deeply. The ones that I want to focus on the most is around our adolescence. As you as individuals, according to Erikson, would actually be going through that stage right now. So the crises that you would be looking at would be identity versus role confusion. Now let's take a bit of a closer look at stage 5. So here I have a slide on stage 5, which is named adolescence. The age that you would be within this bracket would be 12 to 18. And again, the crisis that you are trying to overcome is identity versus role confusion. So the description that Erikson provided for this stage, we'll have a bit of a look at. So this is the time when we ask the question, who am I? To successfully answer this question, Erikson suggested that the adolescent must integrate the healthy resolution of all earlier conflicts. So did you develop the basic sense of trust? Do you have a strong sense of independence, competence, and feel in control of your life? Adolescents who have successfully dealt with these earlier conflicts are ready for the identity crisis. This is considered by Erikson as the single most significant conflict a person must face. So you are going through the single most significant conflict right now. What is your identity? Who are you? So I'd like you to pause here and have a bit of a think about these questions that Erikson has posed. So who are you? Who am I? Can you successfully answer this question? Do you have a strong sense of independence, competence? Do you feel control of your life? You are going through your crisis of identity versus role confusion. Okay. So, as I said before, depending on how you go through these the crisis that you are at a particular stage, there can be a positive outcome or there can be a negative outcome. So, thinking about stage 5 and looking at the crisis that we will be dealing with, which is identity versus role confusion, the positive outcome, if you were to positively go through this crisis, would be if the adolescent resolves this conflict successfully, they will come out of this stage as with a strong identity and ready to plan for their future. Now, if you were to go through this crisis and have a negative outcome, this would mean the adolescent will sink into confusion, be unable to make decisions, choices, especially about vocation, sexual orientation, and their role in life in general. So this is a really important stage. You're either going to come out confident, a confident individual, know what you want, know who you are, or you're going to become really confused at this stage of your life, according to Erikson. So have a bit of a think about this and see how you're going at this stage. It is a really big ask to think about who you are, but Erikson believes that you need to do this in order to pass to the next stage, stage 6 in this case. Okay, so that is all I'm going to be looking at today. So just to summarize, we were looking at Erikson, who was a developmental psychologist, and he developed the 8 psychological stages of development. At these 8 psychological stages of development, you all need to go through a crisis, and depending on how you go through this crisis, there can be a positive or a negative outcome here. So I'm just going to leave you with this little image here. It summarizes the stages fairly nicely, and see what you think about them. Thank you.